Welcome to Marvel Vision, a podcast about Marvel, the MCU, and right now, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I'm Alex.
I'm friendly, but at a great distance, Justin.
I'm Pete.
And we are going to be talking about 3 new episodes of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man that debuted this week on Disney+. So if you haven't checked them out, please do check them out. We're going to talk about Episode 6, Duel with the Devil, Episode 7, Scorpion Rising, and Episode 8, Tangled Web. Lots of stuff going down here, but biggest, broadest overview of all 3 episodes. We get the relationship between Norman and Peter is starting to get strained by the end here as Peter suffers a big defeat at the hands of the Scorpion, though ultimately it strengthens his friendship with Harry Osborn, who, in the cliffhanger, not really a cliffhanger, but we find out he is getting the classic Spidey suit at the end here. Also, Norman seems to be making some deals in the background to get him to hunt down the Avengers. Otto Octavius gets captured by none other than Iron Man. And the relationship between Nico and Harry certainly heats up, while the relationship between Lonnie and Pearl heats down, which is also called
heats down.
Yeah.
No, I say heats down.
Oh, do you?
Yep. Heats up, heats down. Yeah.
Yeah. Heats down. Let's go build a snowman, I say.
And Lonnie's relationship with the 110th Street gang definitely heats up, as well as he really supports Big Don in his fight against Mac Gargan, who is now the Scorpion. Again, lots of other things going on here. But let's start off with like a almost outside thing, just because this came up right before we were taping. We talked about this last episode, but how are you feeling about this, like, intense 3-episode per week binge drop? Granted, we're going to get 2 episodes of the finale next week, so a little less, but with most of the season done, Pete, you seem to be anti, is what I'm getting here.
Well, it's a lot. I mean, it would be one thing if it was kind of like, oh, not much happened, so we're going to throw 3 at you or something, but a lot goes down, and, to kind of binge 3 like this, I'd like some downtime, think about stuff, because I'm worried about Lonnie, you know what I mean? Plus, I'm really worried about these kids. A lot goes down without their parents knowing, and it makes me concerned, you know what I mean?
Uncle Pete has entered the chat.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think there's a very clear analogy here. It's like an all-you-can-eat buffet. And, you get your...
Because when I think Spider-Man, I want to think all-you-can-eat buffet. You know what I mean?
Well, it's more about the way that you consume anything. Like, you get your first plate, you're riding high, you're feeling good, you've got a little bit of a plan in place. Maybe you're hitting the proteins heavy. You're crossing. Right. You got an egg roll along with your spaghetti and meatballs.
No, do you get a salad?
Meatballs. That's
do you just get a salad to lie to yourself, or do you just not?
I do have a salad course in my.
Because you love salad.
Experience. I love salad. Very, very good. So, but then second plate, you're starting to experiment, getting into weirder stuff. You're filling up. You're filling up, and so third plate, third episode, you're like, this is too much. I haven't even hit the puddings. And I feel like that's where we are with this. It's so full, it's hard to truly enjoy the bites.
I agree with you, and
because so much happens. It's all you kind of just washed of it. And you're like, I can't, and it's just you can't really.
Particularly these episodes, these were the ones where I started to feel that, like, ooh, that's exciting that thing happened at various points in here, where it's been a pleasant enough show so far, but it's definitely picking up. I don't think it's at the level of, like, X-Men 97, where every week we were like, yeah, come on, ooh, what are we doing? Just that hype level.
But that's still
like you're saying, I want to get, to call out something in particular when, like, the Goblin Glider shows up to rescue Spider-Man. I was like, okay, here we go. We're getting somewhere here. And I want to talk about that and think about that over the course of the week. This is completely anecdotal, but I've heard that the show is not doing great. Like, it is not really capturing people. And certainly I haven't seen anybody discussing it online or off or anything like that. Like, I'm sure people are, but it seems to be a little dead in the water, and I wonder if there's a bit of a chicken and egg there in terms of maybe Disney was like, we don't know how well this is going to do. Let's burn it off as quickly as possible. But because they're burning it off as quickly as possible, it's not really gaining steam. And to the point that we're making, I really think whatever the reason, it would have done better with a 1-a-week release.
I agree with you from an adult viewership, but I was thinking about this because I'm still puzzled by why they would do this particular cadence, which feels like sort of the worst of both worlds, where you're inundating your fans, but you're not getting the full binge drop for people to really like just do wheelies on. But I do think they're chasing a little bit of like what Bluey does, where it's just like, yo, chunk dropped, because I think people watch them all. Mm-hmm. And then it gets you, because you're not able to absorb everything or think about everything, you dive back in for a repeat. So if I had to guess, that's why I feel like they're anticipating kid repeat viewings and just like letting this roll.
And I hear what you're saying, but also Bluey is like 8 minutes long, right? So yes. It's a little easier to watch the Bluey chunk than it is the hour and a half-ish that they are dropping of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. But I hear what you're saying.
I mean, I agree, but I do think that's why I feel like they're pursuing a middle form, which I think is maybe proving to be less successful on both fronts.
While we're talking about things that are overwhelming, I also think that like they're really loose with the original material in a way that's driving me a little crazy, because it's like you got Harry dropping the "go get him, Tiger," and I was like, well, what does this mean anymore? Like, if anybody can say it, like, what are we doing? And they're like, respect, and like, great responsibility comes respect, and you're like, what are we doing? That's not what it is. Like, I felt like they're playing with my emotions in a way that's not enjoyable, and just being like, yeah, I don't know, let's have Harry say it. Like,
I hear what you're saying, and I know we're jumping. I want to talk about some of those specifics you mentioned, but just in a general term, I know a lot of the discussion we've been having on the Comic Book Club Discord is about the mix between the MCU nature, the classic Steve Ditko, Stan Lee nature, and also exactly the things that you're mentioning, where they're taking a bunch of them and just sort of tossing them there. Personally, I don't have a problem with that, because when it works, it works. Like, I think the tech from Otto Octavius, which again we talked about last episode, but that works for me. Like, we don't need Scorpion to be full on suit. That's okay. It could be of a piece of what we're doing with Doc Ock, what we're doing with Speed Demon, all of these other characters, the Goblin Glider, etc. That's fine, because I think that works. That's the world that they're building. But there are other things, like, to throw out a specific, Iron Man showing up, which this is the MCU's Iron Man. Him showing up just takes Otto off the table, and it takes it away from Spider-Man in a way where I'm like, this is not part of the story. You're just kind of doing it here. Or whenever they mention Thaddeus Ross going after and chasing after the Avengers or anything like that, that to me feels like it takes it outside the story they're telling, which is this street-level story of Spider-Man.
Well, but I also think it's, again, like sort of in the middle, where you're like, so what is this? It has so much what if. Like, when we heard that with great power comes great respect, I was like, oof, this is more what if than what if, the animated series. Like, it's going so hard in that. And that's, I enjoy that as well. But yeah, you just get a little bit lost in the sauce of what course this show is plotting. And there's like, I also think the tech stuff feels very like Sony Spider-Man movies when they were building up the previous incarnation, where they were like, we're building the Sinister Six, and they're all just various robot guys. And I was like, okay.
Sorry, you didn't like Paul Giamatti Rhino with his like tiny little head and come and get to be Spider-Man.
Don't perfect accent.
Don't disrespect Paul. All right, I'm not going to stand.
Why do you love Paul Giamatti so much?
Because he's fucking hilarious.
He's hilarious.
Yes.
John Adams got you? The comedy?
Dude, did you see that fucking wine movie he did? It was fucking
Sideways?
Hysterical.
Yeah, I would love to see them remake Sideways, but he's in the Rhino suit. That would be very fun to me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's a great viral video many years too late.
Yes, I'll work on it. I'll start working on it. Last moment before I die. And upload.
E-Bombs World.
Yes.
Alex.
Little flash animation. Oh my gosh. I wonder if that still exists. Anyway, getting a little distracted here.
You were literally just distracted. You looked at another area.
Sort of, yes, went off in another direction. While we're just talking about this little moment, I actually thought the with great power comes great respect, I'm a little sick and tired of hearing a riff on the classic great power, great responsibility line, but I think it works here because the point of the show is they're showing what would happen if Peter had Norman as his mentor instead of, they're specifically saying Iron Man, but just generally speaking, like this episode where we see this dials down on Uncle Ben is not here to give the great power, great responsibility. So who does he go to? He goes to Norman, and Norman gives him a very different lesson. Mind you, he pushes back on it immediately, but that's why that worked for me, because that is the essential question that they're dialing in on this season.
Now, do you think... Okay.
I just disagree because I feel like, yes, that was a clear, cool moment where it was clear that he was like, I don't have Ben. Who do I go to? I go to this evil overlord and get bad advice, but don't play with my emotions with the respect and the, it's almost the thing that you know. It just pulled me so out of it because it's not that. And I just feel like making that kind of choice just muddies what you're trying to do.
I think, and this is almost directly disagreeing with you, Pete, but I think that moment would have worked even better if they had stuck with it. Like if Spider-Man, against his better judgment, had taken that advice versus contradicting it 5 to 10 minutes later when Harry is like, no, find yourself, here's your costume, let's go. Because the idea of Spider-Man being like, okay, I'm going to go wrong with Norman Osborn's advice is very uncomfortable and very upsetting, but takes the show in a very interesting, very different direction, potentially.
Plus, I would argue it adheres more closely to the Spider-Man origin. Mm-hmm. And like we've moved away, we erased the Spider-Man making mistakes early on and Uncle Ben's death, putting him back on the track to be a hero. And we've just made him inherently good. And then, like you're saying, Alex, he encounters this sort of crooked version of his lesson from Uncle Ben, and he immediately moves past it. And so it's like, are we ever going to do it? Because Aunt May feels like she's just sort of a B character, and it's just out here being weirdly young and too old at the same time. And that's something we can talk about
because she's got crow's feet. Like she's
got crow's feet,
but they're specifically like crow's feet.
But she's also like, I fed them guac from the back of the fridge. Here's a VCR. I was like, what? The kids know what a VCR is, but she doesn't understand it. And then she's like, don't wait up. I was like, we're getting just a barrage of a series of nonsense things.
Yeah.
But what I was trying to say is that, like, does someone need to die or to face consequences because of his actions to sort of confirm the origin story by the end of the season? And will it be Harry Osborn?
No, I'm worried it's going to be Lonnie because Lonnie's dangling over incredible trouble all the time.
Well, I mean, I think when we're talking about, if we're going to jump over to that, and again, I think we should probably, as we did previously, work through the episodes individually at some point and talk about.
No, I like this scattershot instead.
I'm sure our listeners love it too. The Lonnie of it all, I thought. I mean, first of all, we're going to see him as Tombstone. I think by the end of the season, like straight up classic crime boss. I think if anybody's going to die, it's going to be Big Donovan is going to die.
I thought he was going to die in the Scorpion episode, for sure.
100%. So I think that could be the moment that Peter's like, oh, God, I didn't push hard enough to keep Lonnie on the side of good. And now he is a all-white, sharp-toothed man who's taken over crime in New York or something like that.
Well, hold on. Let me stop you there because I think they're gonna power up the 110 with some sort of thing that will go wrong because of Spider-Man's influence. I also think maybe the Uncle Ben guilt is what you're saying, Alex, but maybe Pearl's a part of it as well.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Lonnie
Pearl
sees Peter with Pearl, and that is what maybe pushes him out of his chance to escape the crime life.
Yeah.
I was thinking like after what happens to Lonnie, Pearl just goes bad, and that kind of can also weigh on.
Pearl goes bad.
Yeah, Pearl goes bad.
She becomes like some like laser whip.
Like Black Cat or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, she is what is it, Wave in the comics, but if you think about it, her name is Pearl, and a pearl is actually based out of like a grain of sand that's really annoying for an oyster. So she might go after Oyster Man.
Wow, that's good. Also, a pearl is based on, I think, the movie Batman, so maybe she's going to be something like that.
Yeah, she's going to fall in Crime Alley. Lots of stuff we're talking about here. Do we want to, rather than jumping all over the place, why don't we jump back and talk about episode 6, Duel with the Devil? So this is the one where, well, we get like a lot of stuff happening, but Norman goes out to a fancy dinner, which I believe is a benefit to help New York after the Battle of New York. He meets Thaddeus Ross there, reveals that his security guard is Spider-Man working for him, and offers him up to chase down the Avengers. Meanwhile, Harry and Nico go over for a play date at Peter's, as we mentioned earlier. Cute. And Peter has to leave when there's a break-in at Oscorp, who seems like it's Daredevil, played by none other than Charlie Cox. Daredevil beats him in a fight. But there's a lot more going on there. It is revealed that Otto is behind the tech in New York. He gives Mac Gargan a scorpion suit. And also there's some interesting stuff going on with Jean, one of the interns who sneaks up as well. So thoughts on this episode? Pete, I actually want to go to you and ask you about the Daredevil fight, getting to see your boy Charlie Cox in the episode. Boy.
Yeah, that was awesome. And badass move at the end there to knock out Spider-Man. I mean, that was just quality. It was cool to see like a young Spidey kind of take on a veteran superhero who like knows his stuff, knows what he's good at. So it was really kind of fun to see that, and the banter back and forth. The helicopter fight sequence was awesome.
So good. Honestly, I feel like this tranche of episodes, really the animation I thought really leveled up. This episode especially, that fight on the blades with the moon in the background, and just the way Daredevil's throwing of the baton at the end when it knocks Peter out, I always thought that was so well done. It was beautiful to see.
It really was.
The perspective changes that were happening is so good.
Yeah, that was very cool. What do we think about, I mean, while we're talking about the MCU stuff, what do we think about all the stuff with Norman and General Ross, or Secretary Ross, and tracking down the Avengers? Because I don't want to see that. I'm not interested.
I don't want to see it either, but it was fun when it was like Ross, just kind of that like...
Sure.
You could feel the tension.
Do you think was it weird at all watching that, knowing this weekend he's going to turn into a Red Hulk?
Spoilers, bro.
And get elected president.
On the poster.
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid all that. Thank you. Jesus
Have you been avoiding posters and ads and
yes.
any context?
I want to walk in like a newborn baby. I have no idea what to expect.
I feel like as a person who's been reading comics and is currently on a Marvel podcast, that's hard to do.
Well,
he hasn't opened his eyes in 6 weeks.
That's right.
He wants me to come to the theater and spank him right when the movie starts. It's good. It's crazy.
Wow. Kind of feels like, from having already seen Captain America, they didn't open their eyes for 6 weeks as well when they were shooting it.
Hey, man.
Hey.
What are you doing?
Hello.
What are you doing right now?
Hi. How are you?
What are you doing right now? Don't spoil a movie for me I haven't seen yet.
He's not spoiling. He's just saying it's not as maybe good as you want it to be.
Well, I don't want to hear any of that shit.
It's not literally spoiler.
Now when I go to see it, I'm going to be like, oh, fucking Alex. I don't want you in my head.
Here's the thing. I'm going to be in your head anyway the entire time.
Not.
You're always in my head, even if I haven't talked to you about it. You know this. When we talk about a movie, it's like, I thought about this thing that Pete was going to have a reaction to while I was watching a movie. It's not a reasonable thing for a person to do.
It's already bad enough that I got you being like, the second half of the movie is better than first. You know what I mean? Like, I've never...
You mean an opinion. Again, you're talking about opinions.
No, I'm talking about a shitty opinion that ruins my enjoyment.
Well, that's your opinion on my opinion. Please, no spoilers for your thoughts on my thoughts.
Let me just say, as the court-appointed mediator to the two of you, that it's really beautiful how much you think about each other when you're out on your own. Because, Pete, it's a compliment that Alex is always in your brain telling you that something's bad that you like.
Speaking of newborn babies,
I was going to say, speaking of third wheels, Nico. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, wow. I was going to say, speaking of newborn babies, Harry. So we were kind of on the same track there.
Right.
Yeah, well, let me just talk about how this episode really made me think this show was written by aliens or newborn babies, because the stuff I just talked about with Aunt May, the fact that they know all about VCRs but not how to work them. And then when Harry's like, he's never had a raisin? He knows about VCRs, but not raisins. I was like,
while we're talking about people being in each other's heads, I immediately thought about you, Justin, when he started eating raisins, because I know how much you hate raisins.
I do hate raisins, and the fact that he had never heard of them and likes them is baffling.
Dude, raisins are great, man.
I don't know. I thought that was a funny joke, him being like, what kind of caviar is this? And it turns out to be raisins. That's pretty good. But I agree. There was a basic level of human understanding for anything going on here that was very heightened in a way that helped the comedy sometimes, and sometimes was like, what are you people talking about?
Yeah.
Down to like him being like, there's a way of playing this where this is a normal part of niceties, having a conversation with somebody, but him being like, oh yeah, I'm super into tarot, and pointing to his earring, and later him being like, no, I'm just into the fashion. That seems like there's a direct connection there where he just doesn't know how to talk to people.
It feels honestly like an improv scene where because you're doing it on your feet, you don't have time to think through all the logic, and you just sort of make choices in the moment that serve that moment. And so like all of these things, especially that Harry does in this episode, are sort of like, oh, that is funny. But I also am like, it would be a more sensible choice if he thought it was caviar, found out it was a raisin, thinks it's disgusting. And like, these are shriveled up
You're
grapes.
putting your own agenda, dude. You're putting your own agenda on stuff.
Yeah.
Listen,
Fuckraisins.com is popping off right now.
And to be fair, raisins are kind of like a grape's babies.
okay, whatever.
Well, I think they're aging grapes. They're like retirement home grapes.
Which is fine. You know what I mean? Just because you get older doesn't mean your opinion doesn't matter anymore. You know what I mean?
No, you should be put in a box and thrown in the garbage like all raisins should be.
That's awful. Anyways.
Wait, and Alex, real quick, are you saying that an older version of a grape is a baby? Like, at some point, you're going to age into being a baby of yourself?
Yeah. I actually have a really interesting riddle I heard about that. Would you like to hear it? What walks on four legs in the morning? No, I'll tell you guys later.
Don't spoil riddles. Pete loves riddles.
Don't spoil getting eaten by the Sphinx. Pete loves getting eaten by the Sphinx.
The Lonnie earring thing reminded me, like, I was on the subway one time back when I lived in New York City, and someone had on a Wolverine t-shirt, and I was like, sick Wolverine t-shirt. And they were just like, I don't know who this is. I just have the shirt. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Oh, wow. That's a sad story.
Yeah.
On the positive side, I really like the idea of them playing every game at once.
Yes.
That was funny.
Fun. That was really fun.
I thought when Peter picks up his phone, he's distracted for honestly 1 full second, and they're like, hey! We said we were using phones. I was like, yo.
Dude, that's what it's like when you're in a movie theater, then someone just whips out their phone.
It was also...
yeah, because you're the guy whipping out your phone.
I know this is par for the course for Spider-Man, but him leaving for that long was stressing me out so much watching the episode. I was like, go back to the apartment. You need to go back to the apartment. Stop hanging out with Norman. Go back to the apartment. So when he had the reaction of like, oh, shoot, my friends, I was like, yes, go. What are you doing, man?
What's been stressing me out is the Lonnie not talking to his younger brother after that huge kind of like trade of like, I'll be in the gang and you can go have a life. Because I've been dying to know what the younger brother's take on this. Is he like hopefully going to be grateful and be on the straight and narrow? But of course, you know, that's not going to be the case. So the fact that we finally got some of that was a big stress reliever.
I forgot from the perspective you hate the younger brother and feel like he should have stayed there. I thought that conversation was really well done. I thought that was very nuanced, very interesting from both perspectives. I did like Pete is saying, the fact that Dre was like, no, I was trying to save you. You did the wrong thing. Interesting stuff.
I like that, and then we get sort of the payoff of that later on with what happens in the upcoming episodes with Pearl.
Like Pearl, I am very stressed out the fact that Lonnie's parents doesn't know that he's been thrown off the team, is no longer going to school. I mean, it's just upsetting how casual Peter has been about it, and also Pearl has been like freaking out a little bit, but I'm like, guys, he's in real trouble here and his future is fucked. Like, we can't be like, hey, what's up with Lonnie? You know what I mean?
Well, the only thing is they're not watching this like a TV show, so they don't know about all that stuff because he's not telling them.
They really
it's driving me nuts.
They should check it out. It's streaming on Disney Plus.
Yeah, they watched it. Think of the ratings if the characters could watch the show.
A couple of quick things because we should move on to the next episode. But we mentioned Jean, the intern, sneaking up to Osborn's floor. What do you think's going on with that?
Well, like anybody else, she's exploring her new space and finding out where the boundaries are. And sometimes you sneak into top secret floors. What?
I think she's working on something else. Maybe she's working for Otto. That feels like a big thing that will sort of come round. I have another theory that I want to drop in a minute.
Ooh, well, here's my theory. Let me see if it syncs up with yours. I think she was the thief who broke in, not Daredevil.
That's what
you were going to say.
I thought that. That's not my theory, but I did think that in the episode. And Daredevil also was there.
Yes, or Daredevil was trying to stop the thief, because at no point is he, like, broke in. Daredevil cutting a big hole in a window is not his MO at all. So, I don't know. I think we'll get more on both of those things, and I thought it was interesting that we didn't get more on both of those things in either of these episodes.
If that proves to be true, I am surprised they didn't reconcile it, or at least have a moment of it in this episode, because it's coming back 3 episodes later, be like, Daredevil, like, actually, did you know that I didn't break in? It's sort of like, what?
Yeah, I don't know. We could probably, I'm certainly I'm holding my thoughts on this until we get to the end of the season, but I'm curious about the structure of the season, how they're hitting things, and a lot of it depends on what they do in these final 2 episodes. But why don't we talk about episode 7, Scorpion Rising? Here we get Pearl and Peter becoming closer, something that we were talking about in previous episodes when this is going to happen. It starts to happen here. Also, we get Norman tracking down Otto. They realize he's using gamma radiation. Very fun reference here where Peter's like, maybe he's using the power of the sun, and Norman says, I doubt he's managed to harness the power of the sun. Good Spider-Man 2 reference going on. And then Nico and Harry continue to bond thanks to a street race against the characters.
That was stressful as fuck.
And we should come back to this, but Nico's necklace flashes in this episode. We've had a lot of speculation about that. Pearl comes to the 110 hideout. She finds out about Lonnie. The Scorpion attacks. Spider-Man does manage to clear them, but he completely loses. Scorpion's suit overheats, but he impales Spider-Man, and as we mentioned earlier, Norman sends, well, they don't call it a Goblin glider, but it's a Goblin glider to go pick him up. So lots of big stuff going down here. Justin, you were giving a little pointy finger. What's going on?
Well, just to jump on the Nico necklace thing, she speaks to the necklace at one point. Mm-hmm. She says, fine, I'll hear him out when talking to Harry, and then it flashes when she doesn't know how to drive. And then suddenly does know how to drive.
Well, take it easy on that. What happens is she's driving and the necklace flashes like danger and she turns just in the nick of time.
I'm just saying, like, is the necklace like a spider sense riff for her, or are we getting Staff of One style powers?
I think it's just her grandmother lives in that necklace and every once in a while talks to her.
So my assumption has been, as far as she knows, nobody lives in the necklace. Like, I think something obviously happened to her parents. She's living with a foster family. And my theory has been that is her memory that was given to her parents. So she's talking to it the way that you'd be like thinking about your parents in your head rather than literally physically talking to her parents trapped in the necklace. But I do think there is something magic going on there. And my guess is she doesn't know about it, particularly based on the way she reacts. Yeah, I don't think she knows about it because of the way she reacts to Peter's secret as Spider-Man. If she was holding a similar secret, we would have gotten some sort of inkling there in the show.
Oh,
we did
interesting.
Not at all. So
I thought that, but I
do think there's still magic.
Will.
I think there's magic in the magic in that there necklace, and she just doesn't know about it yet.
But why would she speak to it in that way? You think if she doesn't know about it?
Well, it could be an heirloom, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's something that she has left from her parents, and so she is like,
could be
Mom, Dad, I miss you, I'm talking to this thing. That is a comfort thing that she has, but she is going to discover, probably at the end of the season, that there's something more of it. I don't know if we'll get it transforming into the Staff of One, or if this is the riff on Staff of One, but there's something there.
See, I think it's more the opposite. I think she is keeping the secret, and I think she's going to have to step up and use her powers that she's been sort of hiding. Because I feel like it's more there's a trauma associated with her powers with her parents' death, and so she doesn't want to touch it and hasn't been able to come clean about it. But it's also why I think she was so affected by Peter, because she is also keeping her own secret, and she'll step up, and that'll be like an issue between them.
Well, going back to the first episode, we had the thing where the symbiote sort of identified her when it was attacking the school, and I almost feel like that was the symbiote's goal, was going after her. So there's so much going on in the season already. I don't think we'll deal with it in a significant way, but I could see it as some sort of cliffhanger or tease for season 2.
Oh, I think she's going to have to step up and do something heroic, because I think Peter, in the guilt thing that happens, I think will sort of lose. He just can't be a hero in that moment. I think that's when she will step up and save him. This is
jumping to another subject, and this kind of brings in stuff that happens in the final episode, but these pocket of episodes, these 3 episodes, are really the one where there's a turn for Norman Osborn, I felt.
Yeah.
Particularly
this
after
episode.
Yeah, like we talked about the previous
He
couple
left
episodes.
him for dead, basically.
Well, I don't think he did it on purpose. I think but what becomes clear here is he's not being a fatherly mentor to him. He looks at him as a business asset, and that is the main takeaway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he was just like,
bad guy's bad.
He was like fighting for his life, and he was just like, he's like, oh, come on, I'm almost at you, Doc Ock. You know what I mean? And he's like, a little help. And
well, but he doesn't hear it. Like, I don't think there's something negative there, because Spider-Man already said, well, I'm wrapped up here. I beat the Scorpion. We're all good. Headed off to the next thing. So he takes off the earpiece.
Yeah, but even when he was supposed to be the guy in the chair and he did a shitty job, he was distracted by other things. And, you know, Spider-Man wasn't his priority.
Yes, it's not his priority. That is, I think, very much what we're getting from this episode, is he wants to take out his business rival, I think for reasons that we don't know yet. Like, I think there's a lot more going on there than Otto is a disenfranchised employee.
Well, it seems like he's telling the story and flipping what happened. He's taking what happened, or maybe what Doc Ock said to him, and saying it in a negative way. You know,
I mean,
like,
well, like look at the. We learn later that he used to work at the. He was basically in Peter's workshop role with Osborn earlier on. So I feel like they were collaborators. I think Otto, the symbol on the armor and stuff looks like 2 O's, Osborn Octavius. Like, I think that's maybe what it is. They were collaborators. He took the tech. Osborn wants it back. He's doing his own thing. I think he will emerge as the Goblin with his own tech on the glider. And if I may drop my theory here, even though it's the next episode, I don't think that was Tony Stark. I think that was Norman in some sort of hologram or something. I think that the Iron Man arrival is very weird to me, and I feel like that was Norman capturing Otto for his own purposes, not Iron Man taking him.
Huh. Interesting. That would be a wild twist. Any other thoughts, though, about Scorpion Rising? I thought the Scorpion fight was great.
Agree. Again. Very good.
Can we talk about the Pearl and Peter talk, please?
Sure. Go ahead, Pete.
I'm just wondering because I'm holding out a hope that an MJ shows up at his school at some point, but it doesn't look like that's happening at all. So I'm just wondering if we're shipping Pearl, if we're shipping Nico, like, who we pulling for here? You know what I mean? It could be Harry. I don't know, but I'm just wondering if you guys have any.
I am not shipping Peter and Pearl for the express reason that we're told right at the beginning that she was his babysitter, and the way that they draw him, he is a small child.
Yeah, okay. She calls him Petey.
Yeah, Petey. He shouldn't be dating anybody, maybe, in the show, I think.
Yeah. He's a baby, is what I think we're saying here. I agree. I don't think there's going to be any ships. I think the Pearl thing is going to be what triggers Peter's guilt, like I said earlier, and Lonnie, and the perceived triangle there when there isn't one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit on the ships because there was a moment I thought with
Of
Nico
Nico and Harry, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I'm forgetting it. I think it was this episode, not the next episode, where they're on the steps of the house and
Yep. End of
the
this
stoop, and
Yep.
they both look at each other. And
Oh,
there's a
we know what
moment
you're
there.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I was surprised by because, like, again, going back to the beginning, I really thought maybe we were going to get something with Nico and Pearl, and that was going to be the whole thing. But it looks like we are heading towards Nico and Harry, potentially.
Yeah, but Nico feels like she's pulling for her and Peter a little bit.
I think that's a friendship, though, and maybe a
Yeah, but the way she was like when she was stood up, she talked to the necklace and was like, you know.
But I think that's based on her having her own secret. Personally, I know maybe that deviates from your guys' stuff, but I think that's why she felt so outraged by it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't really see anything romantic coming from baby man Peter Parker, so much as Nico, like she says in the episodes, feels very hurt that she's just not included. That's all.
Yeah.
That, like, Peter is drifting away from her and getting more people to talk to.
Speaking of drifting, let's talk about the Fast and Furious moments here. They even kind of call it out and joke about it. I thought it was a fun, like, Harry was working hard at some times to, like, try to connect with Nico, and I feel like they found a nice thing of, like, oh, I'll teach you to drive, which was good, because like, every time Nico would try, he would just kind of dismiss her, and I was just like, oh, Harry, you're killing me here. So the car ride...
I was just going to say, trying to teach somebody to drive in the middle of New York City, nightmare. Absolute nightmare.
The worst thing.
Very fast car.
Driving's not easy enough where you could take a 15-minute lesson and then be able to street race. There's no way. In New York City?
Unless you have a magic necklace that helps you out. The other things I want to say, I feel like from the Harry-Nico relationship, Harry's painted as such a goof most of the time, so I'd be curious I feel like we're going to need some earnestness from him if we are going to go that way. I love the Zach Cherry pop in here.
Yes, Flev showing up. He's been in the background at least once, maybe a couple of times, so it was fun to actually hear his voice.
Yeah, and he did the same thing he's done in like the Shang-Chi movie where he's filming what was going on and kind of talking about it.
Guy's a real shutterbug. I thought the scene where Lonnie's talking to his mom and the gang is opening boxes of guns was especially upsetting. Really well done, like, juxtaposition there. And the only other thing I want to call out is the line, "Don't worry, you're safe." I thought it was like, good one. Joke's improving, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Why don't we jump ahead to episode 8, the final one of this bunch, Tangled Web. Peter is recovering from the beatdown that Scorpion gave him. He escapes from the hospital, and after Norman really digs into him about maybe you are not supposed to be Spider-Man, he goes to Oscorp. We find out that they've made the energy reactor work. Also, they're turning the lab into the zoo. Definitely a thing that we should come back to in a second.
Oh, boy. Dr. Connors. Paging Dr. Connors.
I was very surprised to see this, and I know you've already offered up an alternate theory here, but they capture Otto after he gets a nice little dance sequence taking down a bunch of SWAT team.
That was fun. That was fun
Very
watching
fun.
him dance.
And just to wrap this up here, so we get a lot of movement that I think we've already touched on with Pearl and Lonnie. Pearl and Lonnie break up. Lonnie goes to rally the gang and go after Mac Gargan. We also get the Chameleon showing up. We've seen the character before, but now he's wearing the chameleon mask to hide his face and his beard. Probably very uncomfortable and scratchy under there, I gotta say. But he sends them in the direction of Otto's workshop, which clearly the SWAT team was like, well, good to go. Don't need to clear everything out of here. So they're going to pick up some power items later on. And yeah, we get the whole thing that we talked about before with Norman giving with great power comes great respect, and Harry immediately pushing back on it and giving him the classic spider suit with a go-get-him tiger, which bothers Pete to no end.
It was weird, the use of tiger. It felt like it was purposely meant as a little dig against Spiderheads. So I was like, that word is not for you. That's Mary Jane's word.
It is just a reference being like, This is interchangeable. Anybody can say this now. And
I
like,
don't
no,
like
can't.
that. That's true. Yeah.
The reason it doesn't work, and not to spend too much time on this line, the reason it doesn't work is because people do not call each other Tiger. Like, that is not a thing. And having Harry Osborn, social media star, being like, go get him, Tiger, just, that's not a thing that he would say.
Well, and also it's not just Tiger, it's like jackpot. It needs to be both of those weird words. What is that full phrase? Like, face it, Tiger.
You just hit the jackpot, yeah.
And like, that's a wild sense. It's like poetry because it's so odd. And to put it, half of it in someone else's mouth just feels like sort of someone who doesn't understand the mythology being like, use Tiger. I've heard people say Tiger before. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works.
I mean, okay, just to give them a little more credit, I do think they very intimately know the mythology and they're trying to jumble it all up like we're talking about. But yes, this is a thing, like, as a Spider-Man fan, I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, definite side eye.
All right.
Hold on, not to just to be on the hobby horse of Aunt May is a weird character in this show. Peter comes up at the beginning of this. She's watching The Bachelor and doing yoga in jeans and like shoes. I was like, what? Who is designing this? She's chaotic.
Is that, by the way, I think that's the same scene which had one of the weirder clothing things where Peter comes home from the hospital, is like, oh man, I got to change my clothes, and then changes into the same outfit that he always wears. Which I understand. Like, that's how cartoons work. I get it. They have the same outfit all the time. But it was very weird to me that he has a closet full of clothes and comes out wearing the exact same thing.
Yes, I agree. That's strange. How about the strangeness of how the show wants to say the word Sokovia as often as possible? I'm like, again, misunderstanding what we like about this whole thing.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, again, the whole MCU thing is strange. I don't need to see Spider-Man hunting down Avengers or anything like that. But let's talk about that Iron Man moment. You think it's Norman. How are you feeling about it, Pete?
Well, I thought it was weird the way it kind of all happened, because it was also like they were walking away, like he just walked past them and was like, all right, see you later, you didn't catch me inside the building where all the bad stuff was happening, so I can just walk away. I was like, that's not how that works.
No, there's no laws outside.
I'm
like
pretty sure it still applies to you. So yeah, that was weird. And then, but the fact that Iron Man got there, I was like, oh, okay, I guess that makes it better. But yeah, it did feel very shocking and kind of pulled me out of what.
I just feel like this is a reflection of the earlier scene between Norman and Thunderbolt Ross. It feels like that was setting this up. So I just think, and it's Norman's way of getting Otto. Because having Iron Man show up and then leave, I was like, that's so odd. Like, why? So that's why
that ties into the continuity of where we are with Civil War, right? Where Iron Man is working with the U.S. government. So it makes sense from a logical sense. I was contrasting in my head with all the cameos that they had in X-Men 97 and thinking about those worked when Iron Man showed up or Captain America, because mostly it was just background thing, being like, oh God, these terrible things are going on with the X-Men. Let's watch it on TVs. But the one time they had a significant character who was Captain America, it tied into and came out of Rogue's journey rather than just be an excuse to have Captain America there. And that's why it worked. Here, if it is Norman, absolutely, that ties back to the show. If it's just an Iron Man cameo to have an Iron Man cameo, like I said earlier, I think it's a really weird choice because it takes it entirely away from Spider-Man and what's going on with Spider-Man, or Lonnie, who is the other half of the show.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I think it's going to end up being a twist back into the plot that we're already talking about. Now, what do you guys think about Doc Ock's tentacles being like just everywhere?
Well, it seemed like it was
but his back.
Ceiling. Yeah, it was kind of like they were coming from the ceiling and stuff. Like it was part of the warehouse.
I was super into it when they showed up because he was like, oh, you guys aren't ready. And I was like, oh, here we go. He's going to put on the tentacles and become Doc Ock. And then when they came out of the roof, I was like, well, this looks cool, but that's not what I wanted.
Yeah, it's a little strange. It's like the flip out of what you wanted. And also I think it's strange if they are going to get fused to his back, which is literally just what happened to Scorpion last episode. I'm like, are we just saying that gamma radiation, it makes robot stuff stick to humans? Is that like what's happening here?
I'm not sure, unless they switched it to Scorpion, and that's what's driving him crazy. I will also, while we're throwing out wild theories here, since we know that gamma radiation is powering these things, do you think we're going to get Amadeus Cho Hulk by the end of the season?
I bet we get maybe the accident that gets you there, because I think what another reveal we're going to get is that actually maybe not, because Norman doesn't realize that it's gamma until Peter does.
Also, it seems
I feel
like
Norman's been using gamma too.
We're leaning into Dr. Connors, where you have Dr. Connors looking out a window going, oh, animals are coming in. That seems weird. So it's like, if you don't deliver on that setup.
There's a lot of stuff that they're setting up for the final 2 episodes of the season when, I don't know, I kind of want to see them I don't want them to forget about all of that, but I like the main plot. Like, I like the stuff with Tech, with Otto. I like what's going on with Norman. I'm enjoying, as sad as it is, but I think it's well done, the plot line with Lonnie and Pearl and the domestic drama and the soap opera nature of everything. I think that's all good. If they're going to turn Amadeus Cho into a Hulk, and Nico is going to get her staff of one, and Dr. Connors is going to turn into a lizard, and all of this stuff is going to happen in 2 episodes, that's crazy. That is
I
too
feel
much.
like it will not. I think they're setting up a lot that they can pay off in a potential season 2. Though I will say, the only other thing that I do think will happen is that Nico will be revealed, will have the magic. Because we started the show with magic and then have moved hard away from it. And I feel like we have to come back to that somehow to bookend the season.
I totally agree with that. I mean, while we're talking about predictions at the end there, I could totally see Doctor Strange coming back for the final episode and being like, Nico Bitaru, you gotta come with me if you want to live type situation.
Yeah.
Kicking us into whatever multiverse of madness type thing we get in season 2. But I don't know. I mean, just to sort of wrap up my thoughts here, I am into this show. I think it's been building really nicely over the course of the season, despite all of the negative things that we've said throughout. I'm having a good time with it.
I like it too. I'm not because I actually think the animation has been really good. The fight sequences have been excellent. I like the drama of these 3 specifically. The way Peter's pushed here with his getting hurt in his fight, his first loss, I thought was really good. And then the high of him getting the classic Spidey suit here, I thought was cool. The Lonnie stuff is really tragic, and I feel like that's really hard to do in a show like this. And they're telling that well, because they're not shying away from it. He's enjoying the power he's finding and the respect that he's finding. But we know it's bad.
Great power comes respect.
Yeah. That's my take on responsibility.
Oh, cool. Do you think there's some sort of parallel between what's going on with Spider-Man and Lonnie, or those 2 unconnected plot lines?
Yeah, I think this is, just random.
Well, while we're talking about things that we like, I want to say that I like how the theme song starts before the Marvel flip and then kind of smoothly transitions into the, theme song for the show, and it's fun. Instead of 2 separate things, it kind of gets the energy going early at the start of the episode, so I appreciate that, and the song has grown on me. But yeah, it's hard because I feel like I'm trapped between the comics that I love and then the movies that I love, and I'm pulling at different times for certain things to happen.
That sounds like a very comfortable trap. Maybe the best trap.
Okay, well, I'm in a trap, but yeah, some things I don't like and some things I'm okay with. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not having a great time. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do here. I just felt
I don't want to hear opinions. I call them spoilers.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yes, Pete, spoiler for Pete's opinion.
There's a difference between throwing your opinion when someone specifically doesn't want to see it, hear it, and you know that, versus being on a podcast, sharing your opinion on something that we're all here for. You know what I mean?
All right, Professor. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I'm worried about Pete here and if he's going to be all right. And I'm more worried about Tombstone and the fact that people are being way too casual and he's in a lot of trouble.
Now, when you say you're worried about Pete and if he's going to be all right, are you talking about the character Peter Parker or yourself?
Great question.
Both. Yeah.
Why don't we go to our vision board? I know obviously we've talked about a lot of predictions for the final 2 episodes here, but if you get one thing on your vision board that you hope to see or expect to see in the final 2, what is that, Justin?
Oof, it's a lot of things. What I expect to see, I will say, I think we're going to see Green Goblin. I think he's going to emerge as a full villain mode. Curious how that affects Harry. Who we got we didn't talk about it, but some tension between Norman and Harry.
Yeah, that was cold-blooded the way he treats his fucking son, dude.
So I feel like Harry will end up being the man in the chair for Peter and separate from his father, which might be fun. Not from a story point of view. And then the Nico. I think Nico rising and Magic returning are my big visions.
Oof. Yeah, I mean, I agree with those. I think I'd love to know. I'd love to sort of move past the Pearl-Peter romance storyline as well. I think we'll get some sort of potential resolution there. And maybe, I know Pete's really pulling for MJ, but I have a prediction that I feel like Gwen Stacy will show up at the end here because it feels feels more of a piece with the animation. And I think they'll go for that first.
But I would say, I agree with you, it does match the animation more. But MJ is the MCU's love interest.
Sure.
Currently. So
that's true, but they're going to a different high school, different characters. We don't know where MJ and Ned are going to school. It might be in an entirely different place. And
Ned.
Yeah, I know.
Jesus.
What if Ned died? Ned. What if they reveal that Ned died in the attack of the first episode?
There's a fun vision board thing. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm hoping that I'm hoping against what I know is not going to. I'm hoping Norman Osborn doesn't turn into the Green Goblin, but I feel like he has to. So and I'm hoping that Lonnie doesn't turn into Gravedigger, and not what am I saying?
Tombstone.
Isn't Gravedigger is the other guy?
No, not Gravedigger.
He's Bulldozer.
Tombstone.
Bulldozer.
Yeah, Tombstone. Yeah, and it feels like he wants to be, and that's killing me. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's good story.
With Bulldozer, we didn't talk about the tension between Bulldozer and Grift. That was a big fight. Were 2 of my favorite characters towards the end of the episode, and real tough to watch.
You've really gotten into the 110.
I'm thinking about joining. I'm going to go up to 110th Street and be like, can I join the gang? I know this is a total shithole up here.
Why?
Is it going to be like the tasting menu game where we go to different restaurants?
Yeah, I think so.
I also think it's funny in these episodes how much they cut to other members of the 110 picking up guns and being like, what's this thing? And they're like, truly, it happens like 5 times in these episodes. I'm like, they know what guns are. They just ordered them.
Yeah. Online. Uber Eats.
Yeah.
They deliver now. All right. Why don't we wrap up here? If you want to support this podcast and all the podcasts we do, patreon.com/comic book club for ad-free versions of this show and all the shows we do. Apple, Spotify, Android, or the app of your choice to subscribe, listen, and follow. comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, stay marvelous.
Frankly, Jackpot, you just hit the tiger.